Good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah Byrne from Deborah Byrne Psychology Services, known as DBpsychology across social media. This morning, the video is relevant to parents, but it's also relevant to other people as well. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about self-harm. Now, there is a lot of information in the blog, so, take a look at it. A lot of symptoms, and there's actually a lot of information there. So do go and check it out. It's at www.deborahbyrnepsychologyservices.com. Now, in saying that, I'm not going to go through all the list of symptoms, but I will go through what you can do to help yourself as a family member. And I'll do that in a few minutes. But first off, self-harm. Most people think of self-harm as cutting. When they think of that, they also think that it's a teenage thing to do. Probably mostly girls. And yes, okay, it does affect girls. Typical age group would be 15 to 19-year-olds. But don't rule out other ages. Do not rule out boys. Do not rule out men, women. It can affect anybody at any age, really, because it is and can be tied in with other mental health conditions. So something like PTSD can also trigger self-harm. So self-harm can, it's not just limited to cutting. It can be any type of harm to the body at all, really. So that would include burning. It would include using objects to pierce the body. Now, I'm not talking about excessive piercings or tattoos or anything like that. That's not what I'm talking about. It would be using objects to pierce the body. And it could also be, pulling eyebrows out, pulling eyelashes out, picking at the skin. There's a whole range of things it actually can involve. And it also can involve the misuse of drugs and alcohol. So there, as I said at the start, it does link in to other things like early onset of drug or alcohol addiction, particularly among teens. It can also be, depression, anxiety, PTSD, borderline personality disorder. There's a whole range of other mental health issues that it could be tied in with. Eating disorders is another one. So don't be surprised if you don't pick up on the fact that your child has been self-harming. It is something that is done in secret. It is something that it is very hard to detect. Usually it will be picked up by, a GP. Maybe when they're in getting something else checked out, maybe they have a temperature or something, or a chest infection or something like that. And the GP will spot old scarring, old something, something that the GP goes, okay, this is not right. We investigate this further. But if you suspect and you are the child's parent, you will know them best. Or if you are the friend of somebody, as I said, this can affect adults as well as children. Don't ever be afraid to reach out, maybe try, if it is an adult, try and as I said, check out the symptoms, and they're there at the beginning of the blog, so you can just check those out. Sorry, losing my train of thought here. In terms of cause, there is no single cause. But as I said, because it's tied into emotional problems and to the psychological problems, it can come up with other. It can come up with other illnesses, other mental health illnesses. But if there was only just self-harm involved, there really is no one single cause. We don't know of any single cause yet that can cause self-harm. It is usually associated with a huge the person tends not to be able to express themselves, well emotionally. It builds up and builds up inside them. Their emotions, their psychological, whatever's going on in their own brain is building up and building up inside them. And then, it's relieved. It's like a pressure cooker. It's relieved by the self-harming. And then that is very quickly followed by the shame and guilt. And the cycle will then continue on. It'll continue on, to build. It's like a cycle. The pressure will build up. They won't be able to handle whatever it is, the emotions that's going on, or whatever it is in the environment that's going on around them. And it'll build up, and again, relieved again by the self-harm. And again, the shame and guilt will follow again. So as you can see, it's a cycle. Now, in terms of treatment and diagnosis, usually, as I said, it's not unusual for parents not to spot this. They will usually pick up on something else, or the GP might find evidence of self-harming when they're investigating for something else, like a chest infection. Once that is established, the child or the adult, you really need to be assessed by a clinical psychologist, probably a psychiatrist initially. And that's just to start. You want the treatment to be tailored. As with any mental health issue, your treatment really should be tailored to you as an individual. And so there's no one size with any mental health illness. There is no one size fits all. And as a parent, we all want our children to receive the best care. So I can't tell you that they're going to go in and do mindfulness, or they're going to go in and do CBT, or they're going to go in and do just another form of psychotherapy or something like that. It will really be a case of tailoring the treatment to suit the individual, what is going on in the individual's life, and how best to help them. And it will be multiple range of mental health tools that they will be given to help themselves, and it'll be a specific treatment plan for them. Now, in terms of helping yourself, if your child or if a friend or a family member is self-harming or has been self-harming, my best advice to anybody is, first off, don't panic. Talk to the person, be very understanding, and if possible, get them to go see their GP. Or as a parent, you'd want to take them to the GP. The GP is usually the best first port to call, but as I've said previously, don't forget you can self-refer privately to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Now, get as much information as possible. Always, always hugely important for any parent or anybody, a partner or somebody who's involved with somebody who's self-harming or any other mental health illness. Get yourself informed. Get yourself informed from really good resources. Don't just hit Google. Okay? Don't just hit Google and go, Google it, self-harm. You'll get all sorts of articles. You get all sorts. Get information. Look for articles. Look for information from really good sources. You can check out my own blog. You can check out other psychologist blogs, other psychiatrist blogs. Go to the HSC website, the NHS website, or whatever is equivalent in your country. The next thing I would do is, once the individual is in care and is in a treatment plan, what I would suggest you do is two things. One, consider going in and getting treatment yourself, going in and get therapy. You're going to be on a big emotional roller coaster living with somebody who is self-harming. Like with any other mental health illness, I always advise the family, the parents, to go in and get some therapy for themselves. And it's a form of, you need to talk about it. You need to talk about what's going on. You need to start putting a little bit of self-care into yourself, and this would be it. This would be, part of it. You would go in and you would see somebody like myself. So talk things through with them. Talk things through with your therapist. and get their support, and they will have information they can give you about self-harm or any other mental health illness, and come to an understanding within yourself as how you can better support your loved one or your child. Next thing I would say as part of that would be know the strategies that the individual has been given by their therapist, and aid that person in putting in that plan of action. And as I said, the therapy will be individually based, and they will get strategies to help them. So if you can support them in those strategies and know the treatment plan and encourage them, to do the treatment that they've been given. Very rare for medication, but sometimes, as I said, it's can do mental health illnesses, so there could be medication. So encouraging them to take their medication, encouraging them to go to their therapy sessions, driving them to the therapy sessions, supporting them afterwards in the days afterwards, because going to therapy is an emotional roller coaster. It's an emotional vomit, as I say. You feel awful probably that same day or the next day. I always say that to my clients. You're going to feel emotionally raw. You're going to possibly have, it may trigger some individual pains and aches in your body. You're going to need to look after yourself the day you come out of therapy, and probably the next day or two afterwards. It is an emotional roller coaster. So supporting them in that, cooking their favorite meal or something simple, a little thing, just even sitting with them can be enough sometimes to just say, I'm here for you if you need to talk, but you don't have to. The next thing I would say to you is very much do not never criticize them or judge. Okay, I know it can be hard with kids. They're going to try and push your buttons. But as I said in the other videos to do with parenting, and I'd refer you back to them, lines of communication open at all times, and, be patient and don't take it personally. Never take it personally, particularly with teens. And as I said, let them know that no matter what, doesn't matter how much, how much they may push you away. At times, they need you to keep coming back to them, because mental health illness will say to the person, nobody likes me, nobody loves me, nobody wants me. I'm such a terrible person. So they'll be pushing you away from them. So you're the one that maybe has to do a little bit more work at the relationship, and you need to be there for them. As much as possible. Just keep chipping away at it. Be there, constantly be there. Do little things, and just try not to be judgmental or criticizing. I'm just checking my notes. Now, I know I've put in the blog, remove all items. This is more for children. Remove any items that could be used in self-harm. That's a given. You can do that. That can be very hard sometimes. It can be not very practical in a home. But you can't go around and put locks on all the doors and all the drawers in the house. I think if somebody is going to do something, they will, and there is not a lot you can do about it. So you would be better off really supporting in their treatment plan and making sure that they're going to therapy. And if you're really, really, really concerned that they're going to do something more, straight away, don't wait. Trust your gut instinct. Don't wait. Talk to them, keep talking to them, but get them to the GP. If you need 999 or 112, please do that. That's call emergency services. But and while you're on the phone, as I've said before about calling emergency services, if you felt somebody was that bad and they were that suicidal, keep talking to them until help arrives. Just keep talking to them, and that sometimes can be enough to keep talking to them until you actually get the emergency services there, or get them to the GP, or back to A&E yourself if you're driving, or take somebody with you if possible. Now, the last thing I'd just say is, if you have coping strategies yourself, it is a good idea to show, and I've said this about modelling, particularly with parents, you model healthy boundaries, you model your coping mechanisms, you model good behaviours, good habits, you model, how to de-stress, good anger management, you model all that for your children. So, but if you have a technique that you use, like meditation, journaling, something, or even, talking yourself out of negativity, try and do that with the person as well. If you share what you do, it can be very useful. Now, when I say sharing, particularly with teens, it's not a case of, well, this is what I do and this is what you should be doing, and, cop on to yourself. It's not like that. Please don't do that. Sit down, have a chat, sit beside them. Don't do face-to-face. Not good with teens to do face-to-face about anything. You're better off sitting beside them, or doing it while you're in the car, or doing it while you're doing the dishes or something, or wiping down the worktops, and just talk about yourself. Don't talk about them, just talk about you. Talk about what you do. You've had a tough time. Now, you're not putting your problems onto them. What you're just simply doing is, when I get into this situation, this is what I do. And don't start, going through a whole load of situations. Just take one instance and share about it. Share about something that I was really stressed, so I took up meditation. I was really stressed, so I started journaling. I wasn't sleeping well, so I started, and say whatever it is. I think you get the idea. So sharing, sharing helps build a connection. And although you may not feel they're listening to you, you'd be very surprised at what they're picking up. Particularly kids, particularly teens, they pick up everything. So, think about talking about what's gone on in your life. Think about how you've coped. And think about it beforehand. Do you think, what do I want to say? Do I think this is going to be helpful? And, even small things can really be helpful. So, give it a go. I hope